This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Wednesday, October 25th, 2006, and this is episode 170 of Walt Disney World Today. I'm Matt Hochberg from MGMstudios.org. On the show today is Len Testa, co-author of The Unofficial Guide to Walt Disney World. Welcome, Len.
How's it going, Matt?
Outstanding. And we also have Mike Scopa of MousePlanet.com. Welcome, Mike.
Somebody's got to nail that girl's fins to the floor.
Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Little Mermaid.
And we also have Mike Newell of Mouse World Radio. Welcome, Mike.
How's it going, Matt?
Outstanding.
Do we have Marissa on the show?
Marissa's listening in, but she's not officially on the show.
She's not really here.
I just have a girl you laugh sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes?
Sometimes. Exactly.
So, Scopa, this is your last show on this podcast, huh?
It's the Farewell to Mike tour.
There's definitely going to be someone who's going to post in the show comments, why is Mike leaving?
Why is Mike leaving? Jeez, get rid of him. Is he going on his another show? Dole Whip.
It's Wednesday, so we're answering listener questions, and our first is from Shannon from New Jersey, who writes, "Hey guys, love the show. One quick question. I'm going to Walt Disney World for MouseFest, and I was checking touringplans.com. Yes, I am sucking up to Len. And noticed that a Pop Warner event is being held at the same time. Do you think this will increase the crowd significantly? I can't wait to see you guys at MouseFest."
So actually, I got to call the Pop Warner has apparently a world headquarters in Pennsylvania, and I talked to their media rep. I believe the guy's name was Eric, and coincidentally enough, he's a former Walt Disney World cast member. He and his wife are both former Walt Disney World cast members. I believe he used to work at Wilderness Lodge, and she at either Pop Century or All Star. And I asked him that exact question. First of all, I asked him how many people would go down for Pop Warner. He said this year they're expecting around 28,000 people in Walt Disney World for that. And then my next question to him was, what are the impacts on the park? And he said in his experience, it's negligible because of the number of activities that are scheduled during Pop Warner Football Week. That is, most teams have to be somewhere during the day doing something. So there's not a whole lot of free time. And when there is, it's not like everyone has free time all the time. So I guess it's rotated amongst the teams. Incidentally, it's not so much the Pop Warner teams themselves. I think there's only like 60 of them, but it's something like it's the cheerleading championships that bring 300 or 400 teams down. Now, other than Pop Warner, the other big convention that we know of is the Performance Racing Industry Convention in Orlando, which is bringing in something like 40,000 people. That's going to be at the Rosen Convention Center, I believe. So again, not directly impacting the parks, but something you want to be aware of.
Right. Well, I've stayed at All Star Sports last year, and that's where most of the teams for Pop Warner stay at. And
right.
I mean, other than during breakfast, certainly you see them and they impact the resort over there. But like you said, Len, I mean, they're doing stuff during the day. The cheerleaders, on the other hand, you see them in the parks quite a bit. I can't really recall seeing the football teams in the parks a lot. I mean, if you're playing a football game, Len, the resident football player over here.
Yeah, right.
All those years you had with the Steelers.
I do use the third person plural when I speak to them. We.
I mean, you're playing a football game. I mean, you're going to be kind of tired.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things I think are driving it down. One is obviously they've got such a busy schedule. Two, obviously it's affordability. Not everyone's going to be able to afford to go to the park every single day.
Right. Let's move on to our next question from Jennifer from Morgan. Her name is Jennifer Morgan, and she writes, I guess this is a good question for Mike Scopa. I have a question about annual passes. I want to invest in them for my family. My family consists of myself and 2 kids. My oldest will be 10 in December. Obviously, buying one for her before then would be a good idea. Does the year begin when I purchase it, or on the first day I use it? If I buy one now for my oldest child while she's still a child, and then buy additional passes over the next couple of months, will we all renew at different times? Our next trip is either in January or next fall.
Well, you would renew at different times. I don't know for sure. I mean, I guess that if you had purchased a ticket for a a child who is 8 or 9, and you had already activated that annual pass, that would be one thing. I would suggest buying all 3 of them at the same time so that you're all in sync. But then again, you may not. I'd like to find out from Jennifer if she's intending to go down, in excess of 10 or 11 days, and maybe she doesn't need 2 annual passes for her children. Maybe she just needs 1 so that she can, get the discounts that she, would realize with the annual pass. Sometimes it's not really worth it to get an annual pass for the children.
Well, I mean, to answer her first question, she wants to know when you buy it, does your year begin when you purchase it, or in the day of first use? It's the day of first use.
It. Right.
Right. So wouldn't the renewal dates then would be all on the same day, right?
Assuming they use it on the same
all on the same day. I mean,
assuming they all, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But I mean, she could, in theory, if her next trip is January or whenever. I mean, certainly, if she bought one, today, and she bought one next month, and she bought one,
Yeah. So she's like on an installment plan. Yeah.
Right. I mean, she could do that, right? And then they would all expire a year from when they first used it, which would assumably be, the same time.
Right.
Right. Okay. Just wanted to confirm there. Let's move on to our next email. That's from Jason from Las Vegas, Nevada. He writes, "Good afternoon, fellow Disney Files. I received an email today hyping the website supporting Year and Some of A Million Dreams, and somehow ended up on the eligibility requirements to win. Below are a few interesting observations." He writes a couple. I'll read 1 or 2 here. "Winners of the mail-in portion of the sweepstakes will win a cash value for prizes won. Not bad, $583 for a night stay at the Royal Castle. However, the cash value for a Dream Fast Pass is $5. Send me a plush Mickey or something that my dog can chew on. That's worth at least $10.
That's awesome.
So
it's only $583 to spend the night in Cinderella Castle.
I guess that's what they.
I've got $600 lying around. Let me know where to sign up.
Yeah, that probably doesn't include breakfast there, because that's going to be another.
I'm okay with that. Oops,
that's
sorry.
another 600.
Yeah, exactly.
And he also writes, "Finally, right below the main paragraph is one quick line, and I quote, 'For residents of Canada, a mathematical skill testing equation must be correctly answered to win any prize.' What? These people gave us the Scopus special for crying out loud? Isn't that enough?"
Exactly. And Celine Dion. Maybe that's payback.
I guess this is a good question for Mike Newell. It's from Bruce from Brooklyn. And he writes, "I've been going to Disney World with a camcorder since 1989. One thing I never understand, why some rides you can never videotape. Some rides you always could, some you couldn't, but now you can, and vice versa. For example, rides that I've videotaped in the past, but now you can't, are Carousel of Progress and Universe of Energy after the Ellen Jeopardy thing replaced the original. Years ago, you couldn't videotape Voyage of the Little Mermaid, but now you can, and more appropriately, they don't say you can't, so you can't, right?"
Well, years ago, you didn't have built-in video lights that would annoy people. And when things have changed, like I'm sure with Ellen, it's a whole legal thing.
I think the rule that I've always observed, Mike, when videotaping or taking pictures, is as long as you're not using external lighting, whether that be a flash or
Right.
a floodlight on your camera.
That's it with me. Yeah.
I mean, then you're all for it. I mean, there are certain attractions like the roller coasters where I think they're more concerned that your camera will become a flying brick that will end up in someone's face.
Right.
But generally, I mean, do you find that have you been yelled at, Newell, for videotaping?
Sure, I have been. Sure.
Only not by your wife, not by Mary.
Not cutting those times.
She yells at me for everything else. So. Yeah, you get. I walked into Alien Encounter with a thing that had a little red light on, and they stopped me in there.
Really?
And they said, "You're not allowed to tape it." I said, "I'm not taping it. It was a device I had that had a little red light on it." And they tried to kick me out of it.
Are you walking in there with a little red light on it?
Don't worry about
it.
it.
Light appears on Testa across the room.
They saw the light, so they came over to me. They approached me.
Saw the light.
Bruce also runs magicalthemeparks.com, which we'll give him a little plug for his little website over there.
Ooh.
Our next email is from Jeremy. He's got way too many consonants, not enough vowels in his last name. From Painesville, Ohio, who writes, I never seem to get through for the live show, so I'll send my questions this way and hope you have time to answer them. During Live Show 6, you mentioned to a little girl about waking up Tinkerbell. Do you have any more details on how that works and what you have to do? Actually, Marissa and I tried doing that on our past trip in September, and this is what we were told. You have to be literally the first family in there, the first person in there, in the store, which is located...
Tinkerbell's Treasures in Fantasyland.
Fantasyland, right. First of all, we asked about 4 different cast members, and none of them knew it until they got to, I guess they're the senior one who's been working there the longest, and they actually knew about it. And so you have to be the first family in there, and not only that, the adults can't ask for it. Your child has to ask for it. So, like, Len can't bring in Hannah and say, my daughter wants to see it. That doesn't work. Hannah has to ask for it, which is
really
kind of interesting, yeah.
Too many rules.
Jeremy also wants to know where, as specific as possible, in MGM can you meet Sorcerer Mickey? I know you've covered it, but I'm still confused on where this is, and is he always there, or does he rotate with other characters? It's going to be on Mickey Avenue, right next to where Who Wants to Be a Millionaire used to be. It's also on the other side of the Backlot Tour entrance. He's there from like 9 to, which is park opening, till 10 to about almost when park closes, about an hour or two before the park closes, and he's the only one there. I mean, obviously he goes for a break every now and then, but certainly he's there for that. And Jeremy also wants to know about which restaurants offer the Fantasmic dinner packages. Jeremy, check the show notes. I'll put a link in there for the participating restaurants. Let's move on to an email from Beth Young, who writes, "Hi guys, I hear that the Mouse is running the Main Street Electrical Parade in Anaheim. Can this be true? I love the parade since I was small. The new parade is turgid by comparison. Sorry, Mike Scopa. I think I remember you saying that you liked it better, but the new music doesn't come close to the genius of the Don Dorsey music. If the premiere parade is shown anywhere, it ought to be shown here, in Orlando. As the blogger I linked to points out, that's also where I live." Guys?
What was the question?
She mentions you, Scopa. You might want to perk up for the question. She wants to know if the Main Street Electrical Parade is running in Disneyland.
I don't know.
No, I have no idea. If I wanted to know that, I'd go to www.disneyland.com, I guess. I believe that when it left Disney World and was replaced by Spectral Magic, that it had gone back to the West Coast to replace a very unpopular parade called Light Magic. So my guess is that it's there, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, what I'll tell you, Beth, is that if you want to complain about what we get and what Disneyland has and what we don't have, it's far tipped. The scales are tipped in our favor over what Disneyland gets versus what we get. But we will have a link in the show notes to the current parade over there, or maybe while we're doing the show, someone in Tins can look up what the current parade is over there. Our next email is from Chris, who writes, "In your experiences, are Disney's operational updates loosey-goosey or set in stone? Splash Mountain will be down from January 2nd to January 27th. We are going in late January and want some guidance whether past patterns would dictate the ride reopening before, on, or after the posted date. Thanks for all the guidance. My wife thought I couldn't get any geekier, but with your kind assistance, I've proved her wrong."
I mean, I think it probably will close on that date. Will it open? On the exact date that it's supposed to. Maybe a day or two early sometimes, but I wouldn't count on it.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you said, Len. The closing date tends to be fairly set in stone, but the reopening date can be kind of iffy. Our next email is from. It is from John from Maine, who writes, "Hey guys, been listening to your show for a couple months now after discovering it through a link on Mouse Radio's website." I think that's Newell's website, I'm not sure. It is the best podcast I've come across. You guys always seem to have a blast doing it. Mike Scopa is the best. Anyway, I was wondering if you have ever planned to do a show devoted to Walt Disney World for larger guests. It was brought up in a past listener question show, and as far as I can see, nothing became of it, which is a shame. I hope you revisit the topic at some point. You should also have Christine and Testa on more often. She is a riot.
Funny.
If you're interested, John, for tips and that kind of stuff for guests who are larger, you might want to consider Deb Wills' Passporter's Guide to Special Needs.
Right, there's a great book for that because I think it's a special section on Disney rides for larger people, including the layout of ride vehicles, like whether you're sitting tandem or behind one another, and then how many people can fit, practically speaking, into some of the ride vehicles, like at the Haunted Mansion and whatnot.
Great. Will from Tallahassee, Florida writes, "Hello, I love the podcast. I've been listening for about 2 months and have caught up on all the archived podcasts. I have a question about Food and Wine Festival at Epcot. I'm staying at All Star Music this weekend for the first time. My beloved Pop Century was booked this weekend and plan to go to the Food and Wine Festival for the first time. I'm going to try as many items as possible, but do you have any food or adult beverages that I should not pass up?"
What was good? I think the desserts starting around, if you're going clockwise, like around Mexico, especially around like Norway and stuff like that. Those were those I hear are pretty good this year.
Yeah, I've heard lots of great things about what's it called? Australia has some great wine.
They also have some good beer. They've got Australian beer down there. They've got a lot of spice. Len's right, though. Yeah, there's a lot of new spicy things to try from the left side of World Showcase. As you move towards as you move past American Adventure and the rest of them, they're not as spicy. Let's put it that way.
Good to know.
And
Electrical Light Parade is at Disneyland, by the way.
Thank you, Mike Scoba. Last question of the day is from Ken in Atlanta, who asked, my friends and I are going to be at Walt Disney World in February. We're planning to go to the Pirate and Princess party while we are there to experience it. I am sure that we will go to the Pirate Path, but do you think that means once you choose, you can't see the events in the other path? I would love to get a picture with some of the princess, especially Belle.
You have to fight Scopa for one of those seats. But
I would say dress your child and buy one of those costumes where one half of the costume is a pirate and the other half.
Yeah, what if you have
is
two
a
kids? What do you
princess.
do?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be able to choose to.
Sure.
As Robert Plant once said, yes,
do a baby
there are
swap.
two paths you can go by.
You do
But
a
in the
baby
long
swap.
run, yeah, baby swap, exactly.
I mean, it's just I think of it as the Halloween party. I mean, you pay extra to go to the Halloween Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party, but you buy.
darn it, you're gonna walk wherever the heck
I was
you
going to
want.
say, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to do anything that's related to the party. I mean, you can just go ride, Splash Mountain over and over again. Well, that's it for us today. If you want to read our show notes, send us an email or download older episodes. Visit us online at www.wdwtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Scopa, and Mike Newell, I'm Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.
Matt Sweetie Hotchberg.